I didn't get a drink. Oh my god, I didn't get a drink. Oh, she returns. Okay. All I do for the first 2 minutes of filming is just faff around. Jesus Christ. This is Willow vs Allergy, and today we are talking buffets. Now, buffets is a bit of a tricky one when you have severe allergies, or any allergies really. It's a tricky one for anyone. Now, the reason it's so challenging is because everyone is going up and getting their food, and there's all this possible risk of cross-contamination, because when things come out of the kitchen, you don't know what's happening to them. The chefs don't know what's happening to them. Anyone could use a spoon for something else and something different, and then that can be a whole big problem because it can cause an allergic reaction. Now, there's only one buffet restaurant to my knowledge in the town I live in, and as we know, I selected the types of restaurants before I actually suggested the restaurant that fit that genre. So we're going with it. That buffet place was the buffet place I was gonna go to, except I didn't. I actually did some research into the local buffet place, which is known as a buffet village. Actually, I didn't know what a buffet village was until I looked it up, and it turns out it's like a ton of buffets in one place. Like, you go into the buffet, but it's like 20 different buffets. So there's like Indian and Chinese and American food and all these different kinds of cuisine. Then when I looked further, it said they had over 100 food items, which to me just seems like so many, too many variables, because how can you and the restaurant keep track of all of the things happening in that place? And just how can you know what is happening in all of those kitchens? It just seems like a minefield. And I'm sure they are great, the people who work there, and they did state on their website if you have any allergies you can speak to them, but it was kind of lumped in with, like, if you're vegan or vegetarian or have an allergy / intolerance, then you can talk to us and we'll find something for you. Which kind of says to me that they're just going to kind of show you what's going on in the restaurant that you can eat, and then you get from the buffet, which obviously you can't do if you have a severe allergy because of cross-contamination. Now, I know that that is an assumption, and we shouldn't be making assumptions in these EPQ, in this entire EPQ project. However, buffets are incredibly challenging for those with allergies anyway, and many pediatricians or allergy experts actually say to you, steer clear of buffets. I have heard many times in my doctor's appointments that I should steer clear from buffets because of the cross-contamination. So unfortunately, my lovely local buffet village, I can't come to you, and I can't rate you on my little allergy scale. But it does open up a very interesting discussion on buffets and people with allergies. Now, Chef Brad, who you're hearing on the phone throughout this vlog series, is a friend of ours, and we became friends because since the first year that we were there, he has been helping me out. When I say helping out, I mean he's been coming out in the kitchen to talk to me about my meal, and he's been cooking for me, and every year we've gone back to see him, we keep in touch, and that's how I've got him as an expert, and that's how he's hooked me up with all these great chefs. And every so often the chefs in Disney move around different roles, so you could go from one restaurant to another, which means that we've followed Brad around all of the different restaurants he's been to. He's now the head chef at the 2 Disney water parks, which is super cool, and I haven't really had the time to ask him about it, so I can't put it in the vlog, because when I rang him I didn't actually know that he'd got that job yet. However, Chef Noah has come to the rescue, and he has spoken to me about being heading up multiple restaurants. I know this is slightly off topic from buffets, but I still think it's quite a cool thing to talk about. So I asked him the question, you oversee multiple restaurants, are the allergy practices the same in all of them? Because, like, let's be real, it's gonna, if there are different allergy practices, then you might struggle, like, sorting that out. We use different allergy procedures based on what style restaurant it is. A buffet has a designated trained allergy professional walk you through the buffet, as well as us providing an allergy roadmap to help our guests make safe decisions. A table service restaurant has a designated trained allergy professional meet you at the table to discuss safe options, as well as offering an allergy menu to keep our guests making safe decisions. At a quick service restaurant, designated trained allergy professionals meet you at the ordering counter to assist guests with safe options. Our processes all look the same when it comes to preparing allergy meals. We review all ingredients and watch for cross-contamination and use safe, proper cooking techniques while preparing food for guests with allergies. So if you think, if a chef is overseeing multiple different kinds of restaurants, then that can be, you're constantly having to switch. So then I asked, is that a hardship, switching between all these different restaurants accommodating allergies? And he came back with, if chefs, cooks and service staff are well trained and educated, allergies are very manageable. Allergy procedures need to be consistent and monitored at all times, which I think is a very good response. And my favourite response is to the question, why do you think it is important for kitchens to understand allergies and how to accommodate guests that have allergies, is all allergies can be life-threatening. When a guest with a food allergy trusts a chef to prepare his or her meal, it's a huge responsibility. Some may say an honour. And he put a little smiley face. So that's from a person that heads up 3 table service restaurants and a quick service. And a buffet. There's a buffet restaurant in that hotel as well. So from the perspective of someone that heads up multiple restaurants, the procedures can change, but the mindset is still the same. Anyway, after that short interlude, back to the buffets. So we followed Chef Brad to this buffet, and I had never been to a buffet on property before. I'd never been to a buffet in my life, actually. And that was 2 years ago, maybe, no. And that was last year. So this year he was still there. We went with a larger allergy crew because my other best friend Susie and her family were in Disney at the same time as us, so we all went for a big breakfast out. And Brad came out, he chatted me through the little allergy booklet that they have. Then he went out back and cooked my meal separately rather than me getting things off the buffet, which I thought was a really good way of doing it. So you still get what everyone else has, it's just been cooked fresh and you know that nothing is going to change. Also, just side note, the Crystal Palace is a beautiful building. Like, just the Crystal Palace restaurant, I love it. I took so many clips of the interior. Also, the Winnie the Pooh characters walk around, so I mean, allergy friendly food, nice architecture, Winnie the Pooh, I mean, what more can you want? Now, we always tend to attend a breakfast buffet, mostly because there's less variety in what can be produced and you can have more of it. Now that sounds really odd, but if you think about a dinner in comparison to a breakfast, you kind of only have like one meal and then that's what you choose and that's what you're having. Whereas a breakfast, you can go, oh, I want a bit of this, I want a bit of this, I want a bit of this, and then you kind of pile it up. So in my mind, it's easier for a chef to go back and prepare like a plate of waffles or a plate of fruit, well, like something that you can have in excess so the person doesn't have to go back up to the buffet to get more. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously they're not going to go up to the buffet, and then that avoids the chef coming out again and asking for the same thing again. Basically just a buffet, in the mindset of someone with an allergy, it seems like a breakfast time is a bit easier. And just in any respect, a buffet kind of seems quite daunting to someone with allergies. Like, think about it, you go into a room and there's all this food and you don't know what could harm you, and you don't know what people have touched and what people have mixed together. It's just like, you're basically just kind of like staring threat in the face. There's no nice way to put that. You know, in like Star Wars where they always do that really like dramatic pan round where it's like, here's a dark side person in a lightsaber and here's a light side person in a lightsaber and they are about to duel. The dark side is not knowing what you're about to eat and what you could encounter, and then the light side is you. Because I mean, who doesn't want to be Rey? I'm now just getting completely off track. I'm sorry for that nerd out, but I'm trying my best to find an analogy. I don't actually know much about buffets in general, and I thought if you were going to try going to a buffet with allergies, maybe you should like learn from the people who deal with allergies every day very well and know buffets like the back of their hand. So I decided to fire a load of questions at Brad and Gary about buffets, which Brad was happy to answer because Gary had done quite a lot of other questions. It was kind of a throw it back and forth, who knew the most about this question, and then they gave the answer. So Brad, the buffet expert for that set of questions, said this about buffets.
Let's see. So buffet style restaurant, so accommodations that are made with guests with allergies in this type of restaurant, it's really no different than, you know, any table service, quick service. The mentality is all the same. We understand that it's a little bit more daunting for a guest possibly because of that other guest and cross-contamination.
Yeah.
But again, that's where the chef will come in, and we are, you know, we're trained and we're happy to bring things from the back. I think is the most common request that we get from our guests is,
yeah,
we have all these options on the buffet that are available for them that are allergen friendly, but their concern being that a spoon was switched or a guest, you know, did something that we wouldn't have known about, and so we are always happy to make things from the back. We also do and try to get ahead of ourselves too. You know, for instance, our mashed potatoes at the Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
We know that we're going to have a large number of guests with dairy allergies that want mashed potatoes, so we'll go ahead and make a small batch in the back of a dairy-free mashed potato. We'll have, you know, we'll set aside some steamed potatoes when we're making the mash before we mix them in with the dairy, and have those ready to go. So when a guest does come in, we can make a quick allergy-friendly mashed potato with the dairy-free butter or rice milk, or you know, we can kind of tailor it to what they want. If they want us to add garlic or spices. So having, you know, the knowledge of gone through, you know, a day in the life of Crystal Palace and what the guests generally are asking for, my sous chefs and my team were able to kind of predict what guests would want or have options available and ready, and be able to offer those and say, hey, we've got X, Y, and Z ready for you. If it's vegetables, if it's, you know, we've got the rotisserie chicken out there that we would have wholesome in the back to keep plain. If guests didn't want any garlic or onion, whatever it is. And
yeah.
Same thing with our strip loin. We'd be able to, you know, cook off a few plain pieces that we could have ready to offer, and just kind of, you know, anticipating what the guests would want and knowing what they've asked for in the past. It really helps us accommodate a lot of allergies and also be able to take care of guests rather quickly, so they can dine with their other parties just as they would without any allergies. Guests will come into Crystal Palace and ask for a cheeseburger or a hot dog or things we don't carry, and we're not going to say no. We're going to be honest and say, you know what, we'll have to get that from Cosmic Rays or Liberty Tree or you know, Tony's or whatever restaurant we get it from, but we're also realistic in the sense that, hey, we actually have to go to those restaurants and go get that food and bring it back, so it's going to be 15, 20 minutes, and so really we're not ever going to say no to a guest if they ask for specific things, but we are also realistic in that we can't, you know, we don't have a hot dog at Crystal Palace, we can't just make one appear in 5 minutes. But generally we will accommodate to the best we can after providing, you know, like options in our restaurant, and then go from there. As far as the time to eat, if you look at the off-peak periods of any restaurant, you're gonna have a little more time with the chef, I would say, possibly, because, you know, there are times in our dinner rush that we get 7, 8, 9, 10 allergies at the same time.
Right.
So our restaurants, when they're at their busiest, you can just think of the percentage of guests with allergies would directly relate to the number of guests in the restaurant. So between, you know, 6 and 8 o'clock in the dinner rush, you're going to have a lot more guests with allergies versus 4 o'clock, you know, 3:30. You know, generally you could suggest off-peak dining periods.
Right.
But there are also a lot of days at Disney that there's no such thing as off-peak.
Yeah, yeah.
So when a guest requests to speak about a meal, you know, really the process starts sometimes as early as that when they make that reservation or they talk to the special diets team. So we may know they're already coming. We may have some background on that information. If you notate allergies on your reservation, we actually get a report that we can pull for all of our guests that day with allergies, and we know what time they're coming in. We know when they're seated, and we'll also get a chit or a printout in the kitchen that alerts us when certain guests are seated. So we know, okay, the family is here, and Willow has dairy, peanut, tree nut, and they're at table 12. So a lot of times, we know when we're walking up to a table, we already know who you are, what your allergies may be, and if you've submitted a special diets form, we may already know what you're looking for, and so that's going to help us in that process. When I come to the table, I obviously introduce myself, and I want to establish some sort of relationship with the guests and make sure they're comfortable. I want them to know, we're here to help them, we're here to assist, and kind of have an open conversation about their allergies, what they're looking for, what their concerns are. And Gary mentioned before, if they have 25 allergies, we're just going to come out and say, all right, what can we make for you? I ask the guest that a lot versus just, hey, chef, make me something,
Yeah.
And I'll turn back and say, what do you want? What can we make? What do you feel comfortable with? So really it's just that open dialogue with the guest. Even what I'll do too as Crystal Palace is, let's take a walk through the buffet. And I understand you're not going to eat off the buffet, and there's a lot of things you can't have, but a lot of our food is made, from scratch in the kitchen. So I can go through the buffet and let them know, here's all the ingredients we have in our kitchen. Now what can I put together for you? And kind of approach that way and let them feel comfortable what they're eating and what we're making versus just kind of coming up with something that they know what's going into their food. And as the chef, we know we can comfortably make them something efficiently so they can enjoy their meal. After that, if it's dinner time, we usually do some sort of salad or an appetizer, or it's rolls. And I try not to bring all the food out at once because I understand it's a dining experience.
Yeah.
And there are other guests who are going to be dining, if it's a buffet, they're going to be getting their food and be back within 5 minutes. So if there are things that take a little longer, I'll be honest and let them know that and kind of give them a time frame.
Yeah.
Try to bring salad or the fruits or, some quicker cold things that can be ready so they can start enjoying. And then as the meal progresses, continue to bring out other options. And then also discuss dessert with them. And so if that's something I can prepare ahead of time, and when they're ready for dessert, I'll let them know to, be in contact with their server and have that dialogue with their server that is going to be at the table more often than I would be to alert us and let us know when they're ready for those things. And so I work with the server, I work with the guest, so we can kind of make that meal seamless for them. And ultimately, throughout the entire process, make sure they're comfortable and enjoying their meal from beginning to end.
Okay, so it's sort of a chain. So everyone it's basically an open conversation where everyone's kind of like constantly staying in contact, so that where the reservation is kind of going. The meal is going. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
And sometimes the guests, I'll kind of have to read them as well. They may not want me at the table, or some people are embarrassed, or and so we'll have a good conversation. I'll let them know what I'm making, and I'll bring it out, and I'll say, hey, if you need anything else, please let us know. And sometimes they won't. They don't want any further contact, and we'll leave it at that. But we'll maybe make ourselves available, myself or my sous chefs, or even our chef assistants that assist, and we'll send them out to the table if needed as well to drop food or check in on the guests if they need anything. And then I tell the guests too, if something doesn't look right, especially if they're eating off the buffet on their own, they feel comfortable. If something doesn't look right, or you have a question about something, just ask, and we'll come out to the table and we can explain the dish or the components to them directly if they have any concerns.
Okay.
It's kind of up to the guest and the chef at the time to just have those conversations and accommodate, as needed for those guests. Some that will say, I'm good, I'm going to take myself to the buffet and use the allergy guide, and then those that, to the extreme are comfortable eating the restaurant altogether. So it's really up to the guests at that point, and we accommodate as best we can to their needs. Important for kids to understand allergies. Yeah, I think it's very important. You know, even I went to culinary school in 2012, and allergies even then was, you know, it was a half an hour discussion in one of our special diet blocks. You know that, and I'm you know, if you've known recently, is it more of an issue or a topic in culinary schools? I think some of the schools have the culinary nutrition programs. I think it's their straight up regular program. I'm not so sure. So, you know, even culinary schools that are teaching, it's not, you know, when I was in school, it was barely touched on, and I've learned everything I know about allergies through Disney, and that's, you know, a tribute to Disney's training program and the tribal knowledge from the chefs and from our guests that we've learned, you know, everything that we do in that whole process. And but no, I think it's very important for especially our kitchens at Disney, because guests come back, you come back.
Yes.
Specifically for Disney and its practices, and it's something that we're very proud of and we take very personal. And you know, and people can get severely hurt if it's not followed properly, and we know that, we understand that, and we make sure our teams understand that. And you know, at Disney, safety is our number one priority. We call it our number one key, and taking care of our guests with allergies and special diets falls under that, and that's always top of mind. It's kind of one of those, if there's an allergy in the kitchen, the chef, that's their focus. You know, other things, you know, it will come before other things to make sure that allergy is taken care of, and it's not taken lightly for our team, for our culinary team, which is why we have all these processes in place to make sure that it is top of mind, and only those trained cast members are taking care of them.
And I find it really interesting that he said it doesn't really matter what time you come in, we'll be able to sort you out, because that completely changed my mindset, because I thought, oh, breakfast will be easier, but if anything, they bring you out a plate that is full with good food and will fill you up, so you don't really need to go up for a second helping like everyone else does. Because let's be real, if people go to a buffet, they get less food than they want to eat, so they have the experience of going back up. I know that firsthand, because both Jonathan and Susie sat down next to me and went, we got less so we could go back up, we're gonna try things and then see what we want. I don't understand, just get the food that you want and eat it. But anyway, that's a argument for another day, just a petty thought. But I found that really interesting. All times at Disney can be a peak time, but they still think that they'll get you something. That I appreciate. The standard of care and hospitality is incredible, and I think a lot more restaurants should be like that. Making time for those who need a bit extra help can go a long way, and in turn is going to bring in a lot more money for your company. It's all just about the way you do things. If all buffets were like that, then maybe we would be able to go to some of them, but that's just the way it is at the moment. But hopefully things can change. We're inspiring change. The whole point of this vlog. Now, after that very long rant about buffets, we should probably get down to scoring. Comfortability. I felt incredibly comfortable at the Crystal Palace. There was a bit of a miscommunication, because we were there to see Brad, and then some other lovely chef came out to try and help me, and it was all a bit like, whoa, this is not what I was expecting, which kind of threw me. And she was lovely, she was so helpful, but I was kind of like, what is happening? Where is Brad? We have come to see Brad. So that slightly threw me off. So I think more myself, my own brain kind of made me feel less comfortable, because what I was expecting didn't come out, and then it did come out and everything was fine, but just for like 5 minutes I was shook. So for that, everything is amazing at Crystal Palace, but just because of me, I'm gonna give it a 9.5. Safety, I will definitely give it a 10. Brad made me feel incredibly safe, and knowing that all the food was being made out back in the kitchen rather than it being taken off the actual buffet setting made me feel really safe, so I'm definitely going to give that a 10. Cleanliness, it was really clean. It was really clean. I'll give it a 10 for that, because I could literally see my face in that table. Cohesion. Now this one, I'm going to have to make it slightly lower, mostly because of the allergy crew. With the nature of a buffet, when you sit down, you go up and you get your food and then you come sit back down. Which meant that once Chef Brad had gone, everyone got up and went and got food. I was sat alone at my table. I made a great Snapchat about sitting with everyone not. So that was a bit of a knock, because it didn't come out, and I know exactly why that is, because I had to make everything fresh, and I get that completely, and I did not mind waiting at all. But just with the nature of buffets, it's kind of like, oh, it doesn't really come out at the same time. But the speed of it coming out, like, they hadn't finished their first serving before it came out, so that's a positive. Though everyone got their food first, I wasn't waiting for ages, you know what I mean? And Brad does a very good thing where he kind of brings out the cold stuff. He mentioned it in the discussion about buffets. He brings out like the cold stuff first, so like a fruit salad or something, whilst the other stuff is cooking, so that I am able to eat whilst everyone else eats. So for that, given that it comes out really quickly, things come out that I can eat whilst I'm waiting for the rest, I'm going to give it an 8. And I know that is not Disney's fault. It's just the nature of buffets. Taste, it tasted great. Brad does the best waffles on property. I have been saying this for nearly 8 years. Every chef needs to learn how he makes his waffles. I don't know how he does it, but it was great food. It was great food. I had bacon, I had fruit, I had sausage, I had waffles. It was just, thank you. For the allergy crew, I went and spoke to my dad earlier, so here is Dad's review.
Well, I think the Crystal Palace offers a sensible choice for someone who has multiple allergies, in that they cater for everything. When we visited, it was under the control of Chef Brad, and he came out and took your order and enabled you to have exactly the same as everybody else that was available on the buffet. It was a nice, safe environment, pleasant, and I thought the care and focus that they put onto coping with your allergy was exemplary. So I'd give them a strong 10 out of 10.
That sounds good to me.
Excellent.
Also, you got to meet all of the Winnie the Pooh characters.
Well, it goes without saying, I got a high five from Eeyore, which was my favourite. I got a hug off of Eeyore as well, who's one of my faves. And I got bounced by Tigger, so what more could you ask for?
True. Thank you.
Cheers.
And does it get an empty plate award? Did I finish? I finished my plate. I didn't finish my bowl of fruit. Looked at the footage, I didn't film my plate, but to my knowledge, I didn't finish my bowl of fruit, but I finished my plate of food because I basically just ate everything knowing that I was going to be in a theme park for like 12 hours. So even if we don't have the proof, it's getting an empty plate award because I most likely did finish my food. Here is this very aesthetically pleasing photo I did take though of my Mickey waffles and the little orange allergy guide and the stick. I spent ages trying to make a cool flat lay, and Jonathan judged me every second of it, but still, here it is. Appreciate the art. And that has been buffets.